What's up, people? This is a very impromptu thing, but let's see. Guilty in at least one. I don't know what I want to see more. Do I want to see better coverage from MSNBC or do we want to see Fox cope? Um, I think we'll probably do guilty on all counts. Oh, no. Oh, Donald, no, buddy. Oh, gosh. Oh, Donald. I am so sorry. Let's see here. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Adding clips for my next video. Wait, can you all not hear the audio for this? Oh, son of a biatch. All right, let's try this again. That's the whole reason why I was sharing this. This is look at me just being a total boomer. Guys, I promise you, I will do better. You deserve better than this. Oh my god. Okay. Boom. All right, what about now?
Career, the judge would thank the jurors for their service. This is a citizen driven process, and it's not about the outcome. It's about the process, the fairness of the process, the integrity of the process. And jurors sacrifice mightily their personal lives, their usual course of their family.
All right, well then, hang on. While Glenn Kirshner is waxing poetic here, sorry about that. That's super awkward. So yeah, 34 counts, man. 34 counts. That's I'm kind of stunned. Now, of course, you guys got to know. Number one, he has not been sentenced yet, and number two, he obviously is going to appeal immediately. But 34 counts. Wow. Oh, let's see. But what about Hillary and the laptop from hell? I mean, yeah, Hillary Clinton, the Hunter Biden laptop. It'll be interesting to see what the response is from the MAGA contingent. 100%. Let's see. Thank God he's again. This is historic. It's huge. It could be overturned on appeal. I mean, it's entirely possible that this will make its way up to the Supreme Court, and Justice Alito will pull out a new, originalist, textualist case that says that Donald Trump isn't mentioned in the Constitution. Ergo, we have no reason to believe the Constitution applies directly to Donald Trump, which includes federal statutory law. including criminal law. That's originalism at work. We have no idea. This is not the end of the story, but yeah, this is huge. A bunch of sad Confederates are about to cry. Yeah, not a great day. Not a great day for them. But let's go back more. Let's hear more from all this. Hang on here.
Propose a date in mid-July. Sentencing date, Glenn, we now have July 11th for Donald Trump. Talk about that motion for acquittal and why it was. Wait, Trump is apparently not moving at all, just sitting there and just staring forward. Yeah, Glenn, I want to go back to that motion for acquittal. Why was it denied, Glenn?
Because there was no basis for it. You know, a jury just entered their verdict after sitting through a several-week-long trial, deliberating for a couple of days. They reached a decision that, Katie, I think you and I agree, was based on the evidence that was presented during the course of the trial. And, you know, this is a motion that the defense is entitled to make, a motion for a dismissal notwithstanding the verdict. These motions are virtually never denied, never granted. I think I've seen one granted in my years as a prosecutor, but I don't fault Todd Blanche for making it. I do fault him for suggesting that Judge Merchan knew something had gone wrong.
Let's see. We'll come back to this. Let's look at some other things. Let's look at Twitter Cope. The question is, do I want to be on my official Pondering Politics Twitter page? And, you know, I use that for like linking sources and stuff like that for my videos. Or do I want to troll people? I think I kind of want to troll people. I'll be honest with you. There's something about, they say, you know, showing dignity in victory. And I just say, to heck with that. Let's have some fun here. Stop sharing. Let's go switch accounts here. Let's go to Josiah. Love that guy. Love that guy because he's me. All right, let's see here. And he was clearly guilty. He sure was. Oh, yeah. All right, can you all hear me now? What about now? What about now? How about tonight? I can't believe IRI isn't streaming. IRI probably, I don't know. See, here's the thing. I just got done recording a video about Trump and the other bombshell from today that they have him on tape using the N-word. Apparently, it was a producer from The Apprentice, and there was an NDA that was signed, and the NDA is about to expire, and there's a good chance that Democrats will use this as an October surprise, to which I say, cool, do it. These MFers want to use Hunter Biden's laptop as an October surprise in 2020. Skullduggery, that's part of politics. And if Republicans can do it, then I say Democrats should do it too, especially when it's Trump, the candidate, not members of Trump's family. I digress. But yeah, then I was waiting on this thing to drop. But yeah, let's see here. Let's go back. I saw my boy Scotty say something. Scotty. MAGA and enlightened centrists are going to be mad. Of course they are. MAGA definitely, but then what I call closeted MAGA, shy MAGA, aka enlightened centrists, they're going to be upset too, because justice for all doesn't mean justice for Trump. You actually showed that the Constitution and federal law applies to everybody by not prosecuting Trump. You see, it's what you guys don't get, right? Let's see here. Okay, we're going to check this out. Who should we check out first? Should it be Tim Pool, maybe? Well, I guess first let's do this. Let's see here. And he was clearly guilty. Trump guilty. Rob Norris says it's official. Our republic has crossed the Rubicon. You mean Rube. Wait a minute. How should I say? There are definitely some rubes. Let's see here. Is this a civil case? No, this is a criminal case. This is a criminal case, not a civil case. The fraud was a civil case. This is a criminal case. Trump is yakking now? No. Where is he? Donald. Oh, no. Okay. Wait, where's Trump talking? Mehdi Hassan says, thank you, Alvin Bragg, for not being Merrick Garland. Preach. Preach. Merrick Garland has been a colossal disappointment in all ways. Too timid, too feckless. Good for Alvin Bragg. Okay, where is this? You guys say he's talking. I'm just looking at it on YouTube. I don't see him talking. He's on Fox. Okay. All right. Oh. I'm looking for this. Trump react. Trump talking. We're going to look for this. In the meantime, let me see here. I will source. Let's do Trump verdict. I don't see it. I guess I'll have to wait. Josiah, I'm honestly a bit worried for my MAGA uncles. Not sure if they can handle this. I mean, listen, you know, it sucks. Listen, okay, let me say this. Glibness aside, it is sad in its own way. It really is, because Donald Trump was the president of the United States. He is still a very powerful figure. He may yet be president. Again, there's nothing in the Constitution which forbids a convicted felon from running for or holding the office of the presidency. And this is going to upset a lot of people. I have a lot of family members and friends that I love who will no doubt be upset by this. Donald Trump should not have put us in this position. He should not have put us in this position by committing crimes. And Republicans should not have put us in this position by continuing to flop towards an obviously criminal person. Let's see here. Is he still eligible? Really? Yes. Yeah, you can. There's nothing in the Constitution. The Constitution puts 3 or just a handful of requirements on the president. You have to be 35 years old at least. You have to be a natural born citizen and not an insurrectionist, right, according to the 14th Amendment, although the 6-3 conservative supermajority was like, just let that part slide. But yeah, you have to be a 35-year-old natural-born citizen, and you can't have already been president for 2 terms because of the 22nd Amendment. Other than that, you're free and the clear. You can committed all kinds of felonies. You could be in jail. Donald Trump could technically win the presidency from prison. So what's going on with the Fulton County trial? The Fulton County trial is right now, I think they're challenging Fani Willis, the prosecutor. Her case is about to be seen in a Georgia court to try to kick her off the case. All right, so let's see here. Sheldon Whitehouse, my very favorite, I shouldn't say my very favorite. He is one of my very favorite senators. Says, boom, agreed, Sheldon. By the way, Sheldon Whitehouse should be the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee because Dick Durbin sucks. Okay, ooh, let's see here.
I have the answer to that.
Can you all hear the audio?
I want to believe that America. Don't have the answer to that question. I want to believe that Americans believe in justice, and I think that in their gut they realize that there is something that is very wrong here. We have gone over a cliff in America. This verdict is a verdict of someone who was forced to fight a 1,000-pound gorilla with both hands tied behind his back. This was a defendant for whom crimes were created, against whom a judge was picked that out of the ordinary, not from the drum, but a judge who was handpicked for this defendant, who denied him the ability to fight the way he needed to fight, who brought in crimes that we've never heard of in New York before.
Yeah, apparently New York has never heard of like campaign finance violations, FEC violations, tax violations, conspiracy to, steal an election. These are apparently novel crimes that New York just invented. I mean, pure cope from Judge Jeanine Pirro. What a loser. We're going to like this. See, this is where I wish I was on my main account, because I need to be saving all these clips for when I inevitably do my video making fun of her. Let's see here. Pisco, my boy Pisco, fantastic day for the rule of law and justice. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. All right, here's the man himself, the big cheese.
Judge who was corrupt. There's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay.
I'm a very innocent man. Nobody's been more innocent than me. I'm a special boy. Let's see here. I saw my boy Dylan Burns. Where is he? Dylan, baby, come back. Ooh, any kind of fool could see. Dylan, where'd he go? There he is. I found you, buddy. Dylan Burns smoking that MAGA pack. I'm not up to Gen Z slang. Not entirely sure what that means, but okay. It sounds bad. Can he vote now that he's a convicted felon? I don't know when the abrogation of your voting rights occurs, if it's on, upon the verdict being rendered or upon sentencing, but no, he will not be able to vote as a convicted felon. It's just tragic. Oh, all right. Let's see here. Whoa. What happened? Oh, let's hear what Roberto has to say.
Let's put him up against the wall and execute him via firing squad. That would be the best thing for my worldview, because it would inspire such a counter uprising of.
Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. That's weird. Rob, we can't be saying that, buddy. Trump hands an L. By the way, I don't know if you know this, folks. I don't know if you know this. True story. The Trump alphabet, because you know how Trump has everything. He has Trump steaks. He has Trump Bibles. There's the Trump alphabet. I don't know if you know this. The alphabet is exclusively 26 L's. Or I suppose in this case, 34. Too funny. Let's see. Again, I mean, this all might be overturned on appeal, but just let us have our fun while we can. Pixie says the party of law and order has a presidential nominee that is a convicted felon. Yes, the irony could not be thicker. But remember, folks, remember, law and order is for lesser people. Law and order is for liberals and progressives, blue cities, blue states. It's not for people like us, okay? Republicans get to impose law and order on us. They themselves cannot be subject to it. It doesn't work that way. Read the fine print. Dylan, by the way, buddy, if you want to pop in, let me know, and I will DM you a guest link. For those of you who do not follow Dylan Burns, you should. He is a liberal/progressive political commentator, but he specifically he actually has worked on domestic political campaigns, but he also right now has a particular focus on foreign policy, and he's often in Ukraine as a war journalist. And we love Dylan Burns here. Nice guy, smart guy. He's one of my foreign policy gurus. He educates me. Trump will never see the inside of a cell. No, let's be very candid here. I'd be stunned if Judge Merchan sentenced Donald Trump to prison time. I think the maximum for these sorts of cases is like 4 years, which would be hilarious if he were sentenced to prison and he had to serve in prison and he got to watch President Biden's second term from a jail cell. I digress. But yeah, I'd be stunned. There's no way. Trump is too powerful. He's too well established, and no judge has the stones to sentence that man to prison. Dylan, I just DM'd you via Discord the guest link if you want in. All right, let's see here. Let's do some more cope. Adam Mockler, do you have any proof of these claims, or are you just going to cry online? He's definitely... Tears are easier to produce for Kirk than evidence. PSA 6 says he's going to get probation, no jail time, most likely. Jasmine Crockett, one of my favorites. Woo child, guilty on all counts in a state case. No matter what happens in November, he can't undo this verdict. I know how many are celebrating, and I get it, but my heart fucking breaks for our country. How did we get here? When do we stop requiring some darn decency of the most powerful person on earth? The grand jurors, prosecutors, the judge, and witnesses, and this jury deserve so much more than they received. This was a brave undertaking in an unnecessarily violent and politically charged America. FYI, today was a win for rule of law. I mean, she's right. It's a good point to point out that if these jurors, if they're ever identified, dear God, their lives would be in great, at great risk. Steve Shives, another one of my favorite commentators, is a guy who does pop culture and progressive politics. He's really good video essays. He's hilarious and cynical, and I love it. Thank fucking Christ. Will Stansel says, gentlemen, we got him. Donald John Trump is an American politician, media personality, businessman, and convicted felon who served as 45th president of the United States. Glorious. Love it. All right. Ellie Mastal says, Andrew Weissman, no one can be happy today. Sorry, brother, can't hear you. We're making sangria. Mike Johnson, my statement on President Trump trial verdict today is a shameful day in American history. Democrats cheered as they convicted the leader of the opposing party on ridiculous charges predicated on the testimony of a disbarred convicted felon employed by Trump in the first place. This was a purely political exercise, not a legal one. The weaponization of our justice system has been a hallmark of the Biden administration, and the decision today is further evidence that Democrats will stop at nothing to silence dissent and crush their political opponents. The American people will see this as lawfare. They know it's wrong and dangerous. President Trump will rightfully appeal this absurd verdict, and he will win. He may. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But yeah, it's pathetic. I'll remind people, and I'm going to just find this clip right here. It's really important to me. I love bringing this up because Donald Trump ran on jailing his political opponents in 2016, 2020 as the sitting president, and in 2024. Mike Johnson didn't say shit. Republicans didn't say shit. They didn't say, Don, listen, we don't do that here. That's really weird and gross, and you shouldn't do that. Instead, they were chanting alongside him, lock her up, lock her up. But now that Donald Trump is on the receiving end, now they cry foul. Now they're like, whoa, wait a minute. No, we don't like lock up political opponents, right? That's just something that we can do to you, but you all can't do to us. That's the Republican mindset. So I love playing this clip. I'm going to find it here because it's just so much fun to play. I love it. It's the secret weapon. It's a secret sauce. And it shouldn't be secret because he said it publicly. Let me find it here. I think this is it. Okay. I think this is it, folks. Oh, Maria, no. No.
Of a ruling here, do you think this is resonating on the American people?
Unless Bill Barr indicts these people for crimes, the greatest political crime in the history of our country, then we're going to get little satisfaction unless I win, and we'll just have to go because I won't forget it. But these people should be indicted. This was the greatest political crime in the history of our country, and that includes Obama and it includes Biden.
So there you go. That was in 2020. Donald Trump, see where it says President of the United States, publicly demanding that his Attorney General, Bill Barr, and his Department of Justice prosecute Joe Biden, a political rival, and Barack Obama, an ex-president, a month before the election. Now, why is this important? Well, because now they say, listen, JK, no, we don't do that. As a matter of fact, ex-presidents are entitled to absolute legal immunity. But that's clearly not what they believed when it was convenient for Trump. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't have been calling publicly a month before the election the prosecution of an ex-president. You see how they're unprincipled hypocrites? That's part of the reason why I'm so mean to MAGA, unapologetically so, because they're inconsistent. If we shouldn't go after political rivals, which is granting the premise that that's what's happened here, right? I don't have to grant that premise, but let's say I do. Well, if it's okay for you all to cheer on going after Democrats, then Democrats should be able to go after you all. This has to go both ways. If they've got a problem with that, we should just make fun of them. It's just that simple. Let's see here. Oh, that was sad. Where Michael Johnson, come here. That was hilarious. Michael Johnson says he finally won. He finally won a popular vote. That was mean, but hilarious. Can I give this a star? No, I don't want to pin this. Spooky Reaction says, nice receipts, Josiah. Folks, I'm telling you, like, you guys, I urge you to clip this stuff and take it with you. Like, there's Dylan. There's my boy. Bringing him in. Mr. Burns. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm probably more smug than I should be at the moment, especially knowing this is going to be appealed. But just listen, we just get bad news all the time as Democrats. So can we just have this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is like crack cocaine to me. I'm having a fantastic time. I'm watching my Twitter feed. I'm feeling great joy at the pain and suffering of my political opponents. I am right now as partisan as I could physically be.
As well, you should. As well, you should. So again, I'm sure, I don't know how much overlap there is between our audiences, because I think my audience is older and I don't stream all that much. But again, for those of you who don't know, this is Dylan Burns. This guy was a Democratic political operative here in the States. He advised political campaigns on foreign policy, has since become a war journalist. He has been in Ukraine, back and forth, near the front lines, reporting on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. And when he's not doing that, he's also a politics streamer, both domestic and foreign. So, and he's also a good buddy. He worked with Progressive Victory, the PAC that I'm affiliated with, and Destiny, the liberal political streamer, back in Ohio. I can't remember, what month was that? Was that March?
It must have been something like March. I think it was March or April.
Yeah, to get out the vote or to register people to vote in Ohio. So that's Dylan. So, buddy, what do you think of all this, and what do you think of the MAGA cope?
I mean, the MAGA cope is fine because it's not even like, it wasn't even close. I mean, it was all 34 counts. I mean, it didn't seem to be any of the jurors having any none of them said, I'm going to hold back and let's delay it. It seemed to have been like an open and shut case from like the court's perspective. Now, I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a law expert. But if it's 34 out of 34 count, I mean, it couldn't be any worse for Donald Trump.
Yeah, because you got to think of all the permutations there. To your point, it's not like the judge said you gotta come one way on all 34 or a different way. Like, it could have been not guilty on this one, guilty on this one, not guilty on this one, guilty. It could have been, I don't even know the math. It could be, it's so many kinds of permutations on this. But to your point, they came back all 34 guilty.
Yeah, what I like about this is its simplicity, because I feel like a lot of times when dealing with Trump is he likes to wiggle into areas where it's not super, super simple, and it's he tries to make it some simple issues seem overly complex, either previous crimes that he committed, or he tries to just like wiggle his way out of it. He's a really smooth talker, and so it's really hard to talk your way out of 34 counts. Right? Like if it was half of them, he could say, we fought them, we beat them back on half the counts, but they still got us on 34 counts. He's got to say that on each count, that all the jurors screwed him, that the judge screwed him, that the system screwed him, that the overwhelming evidence brought forward screwed him, that his former compatriots that testified against him screwed him. I mean, it's a hard narrative that he has to craft to say, hey, I'm a convicted felon, but once you're the convicted felon, like, you have to do a lot of makeup work to try to wipe off the stain on your career.
Yeah. So the other thing you just said there, that he's not a smooth talker. Listen, you didn't see his post verdict press conference where he's like, "I am totally innocent." Like it was the most persuasive.
Wait, did Trump say he was innocent?
He did.
Oh, well, I didn't consider that. Never mind.
That's true. Redo, mulligan, guys, take it back. We got to undo this.
Yeah, why didn't he say that during the trial? This could have been dealt with so much more simply.
Well, like, Trump, if you were innocent, man, you should have made that case. Gosh, you should have told your attorneys. They seem to be operating under the presumption that you were guilty.
I'm sure if he just goes taps the judge on the shoulder and says, "Wait a second, I don't know if you know, I'm innocent."
Yeah, my attorneys did not make this clear enough, but it's like that. That's
how OJ did it. That's how he got away with it. Most people don't know that.
That's true. You know, Trump's probably like mixing his metaphors, like, but the glove didn't fit. The glove didn't fit. Why am I found guilty? There was no glove, Mr. President. Real quick, our buddy Destiny, this is how he reacted. The Trump convictions are BS. He's being treated worse than any candidate in history. Patriotic Americans need to realize the system was working against us, not for us. I don't know about you guys, but I'm protesting by not voting this election. It's going to be rigged anyway.
I mean, I agree with him, of course. The whole plan from the start was to coerce Trump into committing the stupidest crimes imaginable and banging porn stars, which is extremely difficult because he's a very uptight and moral man. He would usually not cheat against his significant other. But in this case, the demon rats were able to wiggle his member out to do the naughty, and then he had to pay off $130,000. The godly way. And now we're punishing a man for paying off a woman for a hard day's work. We're punishing work ethic in that way. We're punishing him for having that go out there and get him attitude. That's what's wrong with America today under the lib-cuck Democrats.
Yeah, it's really gross, the lengths that Democrats will go to hold people accountable for the terrible things that they do. I mean, it's, again, what really is law and order at this point? As I've said to people before you joined in, law and order is a Republican construct where they get to impose law and order on the rest of us. You see, that's the part where you, as a filthy Democrat, you don't recognize this. If I'm a Republican, I get to law and order the hell out of you. Okay. But you don't get to law and order the hell out of me. So, like, that's the thing. And actually, what's funny is, Democrats were actually getting this wrong in a different way too, because Republicans have been telling us that, this is a politicized, weaponized Justice Department. So I ask you, Dylan, why are we screwing this up? Because we're going after Bob Menendez, Democratic senator from Jersey, right? So why are we going after, if we're weaponizing this Justice Department against Republicans exclusively, how did we get Menendez? Did somebody screw up? Like, did they mistake the D next to his name as an R and like, oh crap, misfire, we got the wrong guy? Like, what went wrong there?
Well, that's just because of regular Democrat racism against Egypt. But no, I mean, it's such nonsense. Like, for example, people talk about like Hunter Biden getting away with it. And I'm already seeing the Hunter Biden cope get dragged up by Fox News. I'm already seeing the Hunter Biden cope get dragged up by everybody. Okay. I mean, they're all obsessed with the Hunter stuff and trying to tie it to this case. Number one, we're talking about somebody running for president versus the kid of somebody running for president. So it should be an entirely different conversation in its own right. And I'd be more than happy to talk about the $2 billion Jared Kushner got from the Saudis, the $250 million from the UAE, the $250 million from Qatar, overruled by the Crown Prince when the investors said this was not a good investment. Like, if we wanted to talk about the president's children in reference to criminality, corruption, or any type of, I would say, moral unbecoming behavior, we could do this all day with the Trump family. But when it comes to the Hunter Biden case, he had his records dug up and dug through by so many different political figures, news media pundits, alternative media pundits, conspiracy rabbit hole diggers. And the biggest thing we've gotten so far is Hunter Biden being held to account for owning a gun while he was using drugs and lying on that gun form, the form that you have to sign for the guns. And let me just say, like, I had to fill out paperwork to buy a firearm. I am an owner of a firearm. I support the Second Amendment. I have never heard of anybody actually being dragged in and been like, "How, we found out you use drugs. We're taking your guns." I've never interacted with that before in my life. It might be one of the few instances where somebody actually got somebody for lying on one of those forms. And that's because they dug through his history so much. And then he was found guilty for that.
Yeah, to your point, that's something huge. Like people talk about, Hunter Biden being treated with kid gloves when the reality is that you could easily make the case that if his last name weren't Biden and the Justice Department weren't trying to go out of its way to show that they're not weaponized, that he wouldn't have been prosecuted. I think you could easily make the case that this is proof of an overcorrection in the case of Hunter Biden. Because, yeah, those criminal charges of that nature are just hardly ever brought. But this is I mentioned it before you jumped on here, that Mehdi Hassan made a really good tweet, which says, thank God Alvin Bragg is not Merrick Garland, or is not like Merrick Garland, because my stance on the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, is that he has been much too feckless. Like, he's so concerned with how the DOJ looks, which I suppose should be a concern, right? But he takes it and runs with it. And we actually have credible reporting that he dragged his feet on investigating and prosecuting Donald Trump because he didn't want the DOJ to appear politicized or partisan. He gave Trump basically a year to return those classified documents, which you or I would never have gotten, right? And then, of course, Trump
By the
screwed
way,
around.
it's not like any of those those actions by Merrick Garland were ever received positively by the people that they were trying to appeal to as, uniting the country. I mean, Merrick Garland is getting impeached right now for completely unconstitutional reasons after he did everything he could to almost at the start of the Biden presidency, almost let Trump's criminality slide and be like, okay, fine. You've lied to the National Archives. You've turned off the cameras to hide more documents. You're showing these documents to journalists about invasion plans for Iran. You're possibly, according to testimony from former staff, maybe even selling access to these documents, storing it in your bathroom. And he just lets that go on and on and on. And eventually, when he has no choice but to raid the compound, Trump treats it like an assassination, literally treats it as an assassination, with him recently rewriting the events to be Biden trying to use that raid on his I don't want to call it the Trump compound. It makes it sound like
But Mar-a-Lago, yeah.
The Mar-a-Lago military compound, the Mar-a-Lago fortress. And he tried to paint it like a political persecution when they let him get away with it forever. Do you think if I had those documents in my shed that the police or the government would have waited so long? Do you think
Hell no, they wouldn't have.
Of course not. If I had invasion plans for Iran, I'd be dead on the floor before you knew it. But because it's Donald Trump, they let it go on for a year.
Well, and moreover, to which further kind of elucidates the problem. You think about the amount of time it took Garland to appoint a special counsel for Trump's case, but he instantly pulled the proverbial trigger on assigning a Republican special counsel to President Biden, his own boss. That's what I'm saying. Like Garland's approach is, okay, I have to treat the Republicans with kid gloves upon kid gloves, and I've got to drop the hammer on, quote unquote, my own side or Biden and the Democrats. And to your point, this is the kicker. After all of that, when the dust clears, that will have bought precisely zero goodwill from Republicans. Like, as you say, Garland was impeached, or they're trying to impeach him. And I think they were referring him for obstruction of Congress because he refused to hand over the audio files. So Garland's efforts have been totally fruitless. And it's like, okay, you've dragged your feet on this. You have helped make it so that the two federal cases against Trump will almost certainly not make it to trial prior to the election. And faith in the DOJ has not moved at all in your favor from the very party you were trying to court. So what the hell? That's why I think if Biden wins re-election,
reminder that the Republicans blocked Merrick Garland from being made a Supreme Court justice, and this is the guy they're blocking. This was the super dangerous man that they couldn't even have a hearing on, and they put in there. They find out that the person who happens to be Joe Biden's political opponent, is up to his neck in criminal activity, and he just twiddles his thumb for a year because he doesn't want to be perceived as partisan. This is the person that they blocked for how long was it? How many days was it?
It was nearly a year, because Scalia died in January of 2016, and I think Garland was announced as Obama's appointee within weeks. So it was 10 months or better. I mean, really, if you're counting the days from Scalia's death until the days Trump was inaugurated, that's a full year, right? So yeah, it's super gross. But what's interesting is Garland to me is proof of somebody who would have been a better judge than attorney general, because he used to be a really badass prosecutor. He like prosecuted. I keep forgetting if it was like the Atlanta Olympic bomber, or if it was the Unabomber, or both. But he was like a lead prosecutor in these high profile cases. But then he became a judge.
That's good, because I'm very anti-bomber, generally speaking.
That is a good, by the way, I neglected to mention that when introducing Dylan, that he is staunchly anti-bomber.
Yes, I am.
I'm glad you clarified that. But then over the years, Garland's prosecutorial mindset became more of a judicial temperament, where, he doesn't have, the attorney general is supposed to be a prosecutor. You're supposed to be, a ruthless adversary within the confines of the law. You're not supposed to be a judge, bending over backwards to accommodate the opposition. No, that's what a judge does. A judge is supposed to be fair. A prosecutor is meant to be ruthless. And Garland just simply isn't that to me. So I hope if Biden's reelected, he fires Garland, or Garland resigns. Let's see here. Let's look at some more Twitter cope.
Oh, boy.
Ted Cruz, this is a dark day for America. Ron DeSantis, today's verdict represents the culmination of a legal process that's been bent to the political will of the actors involved, a leftist prosecutor, a partisan judge, and a jury reflective of one of the most liberal enclaves in America, all in an effort to get Donald Trump. That this case involving alleged misdemeanor business record violation from nearly a decade ago was even brought as testament to the political debasement of the justice system in places like New York City. This is especially true considering the same DA routinely excuses criminal conduct.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
sure.
Donald Trump called Ron DeSantis a pedophile on the campaign trail, and look how much this man is bending over backwards to lick the dirt off of his boots. I'm just saying, as a man, that's pathetic. I'm sorry.
He is. He's a coward of the highest order. There's just no question about it. But I mean, that's just the GOP in a nutshell, really. Let's see here. And again, I just want to say, I'm not a lawyer, and my understanding is that some aspects of this were a bit unusual. So it's entirely possible.
Yeah, but also people keep saying that. But a president of the United States doing what Donald Trump did is also pretty unusual, and him being so shitty in committing the crime and leaving so much evidence everywhere and burning bridges with so many people that he needed the silence of was also unusual.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I completely agree with you there. My understanding was that there were like some novel aspects of the case, like the misdemeanor to felony thing. So like it by itself would have been misdemeanor, but if it was in service of a different crime, it's elevated to a felony. My understanding is that some of these cases, some aspects of this case are not illegal, not unlawful, just unusual in the sense that they're not regularly exercised, but perfectly valid. So I don't know what's going to happen on appeal. It's entirely possible this thing gets tossed on appeal. I don't know. Right. But I just think for right now, I'm going to bask in the moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact thing. But if I remember correctly, it was because since it was in service of a political campaign, they added like a different dimension to it. If I remember correctly, I have to go back and check the specific charges. Because, man, it's difficult following a man with so many different criminal charges against him and trying to remember the specific like legal jargon and offenses and everything. It's really nice that they just did all 34. They just announced at the same time all 34 charges, so I didn't have to go through it again. Really effective. I hope they do it this way in the future since he has so many charges against them.
Oh, we're not going to play the audio on this, but apparently, because I don't want anything to happen in the stream, but apparently 2 Trump supporters are making violent threats. All your kids are effing dead in response to this.
That's the same person. Scooter Caster was a good Ukrainian American journalist that's on the ground there. You'll usually you'll a lot of times see their content. They have like the words at the bottom. I think I forgot what it says, like freedomnews.tv or something. They're everywhere doing these on the ground stuff. She recorded him earlier, that same guy, saying that if the case goes against Trump, they're going to storm into the courthouse and they're going to tear it apart. So that guy has just been unhinged all day.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this. I wasn't even planning on streaming. I just saw this. I was like, you know what? What the hell? Why not? I don't want to hear about, well, the jury decided it was definitely right. Okay, so let's stop right there. Let's listen to some right-wing cope.
And, I don't want to hear about, well, the jury decided it was definitely right. Well, the appellate court will decide that.
Right. So apparently what juries say on the matter, Dylan, that doesn't matter. You got to wait for the appeal. I'm just imagining any other instance in which Jeanine Pirro and other Fox propagandists would be using that particular line. Screw what the jury says. It's really about what the appellate court says.
Could you imagine if Hunter Biden was found, or like Joe Biden was found guilty of a felony, and he was like, "Well, it's going to be appealed, so we all have to reserve judgment before we say anything about Joe Biden." It's just complete nonsense. Not to mention, it reeks of, I don't like the result, so I'm just going to wait until the appeals are done because I just don't like the result, so I don't want to have to deal with this truth. I remember when I was working local politics, sometimes politicians would try to put issues they cared about on a referendum, so let the locals vote on them. But if they would get the wrong result, they would already, sometimes even before the referendum happened, be talking about, so if it fails, we'll try again in 4 years. It's like, okay, so you don't want to have a referendum. You just want to get a rubber stamp. You just want to find another way to get it through.
No, 100%. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of overwhelmed almost by this reaction, even though it just kind of went predictably in the sense like what the right wingers are saying. Let me hear. Let's look at some of what chat has to say. He may not be imprisoned because he is a president. I mean, I can't speak for Dylan, but as I said earlier, I'd be stunned if Donald Trump was even sentenced to jail time, let alone actually saw jail time. I think he's going to get treated with kid gloves, even with respect to sentencing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's impossible for me to wrap my head around that, especially like on the campaign trail. I have no clue how that would go. Technically, he can run for president if he is in prison. It's not completely unprecedented. I can't believe we're talking about this for real now. It's not completely unprecedented. Eugene Debs famously ran for president as a socialist candidate, but that was like 100 years ago, and he didn't win. He certainly didn't win. And I don't think that if you're running for president that your odds are going to be good, especially if you're running on a platform where you need to clean up the streets from crime and you're doing it Zoom meeting, calling into the debates in a jumpsuit.
Yeah. Agreed. I just think that the political considerations are too much for, I mean, honestly, it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be if we're being completely fair. Like, listen, at the end of the day, I recognize that certain considerations need to be made for whoever the sitting president is. That's why there's an Office of Legal Counsel opinion since the Nixon era, which says, listen, we're not going to bring charges against a sitting president because the president is the chief executive. He is effectively the executive branch. It would render the running of the country to a halt if you could haul a sitting president in court, right? So I recognize that, but Donald Trump is not the sitting president. And so this idea that he should be given some like quasi considerations and accommodations like you would the sitting president and treat him with kid gloves, it just doesn't work for me. And by the way, I'd feel the same way about Bob Menendez or anybody else for that matter, any Democrat, if the shoe was on the other foot and it was Biden. I just think it sets a really gross and dangerous precedent to say that political candidates should be treated with kid gloves. I'll say this too. There are laws on the books which protect from frivolous lawsuits. I understand that there's a risk in the opposite direction. That's what Trump's attorney said. Listen, if you can go after people running for office, then it could have a chilling effect. Okay, sure. But to me, the bigger consequence is giving, the political class even more considerations than what we already do. And again, Trump is a citizen. He's not even a politician like a sitting member of Congress or the president.
Well, I don't want to what I'd be fearful of is like a chilling effect on them thinking on like the consequences, like people thinking while in office that there's no consequences if they can just cover their criminality in the seal of the president of the United States. Then it's okay, and they can never be held to account for crimes committed while in office, which is only going to encourage or cover up for that behavior for the people who should be held to account more than anyone. We're talking about the most powerful person on the planet, the president of the United States, or at least a person who holds a position that has one of the most biggest or largest positions of power in the world. And we're going to say that's the one individual, and we have this idea that all men are created equal under the law, that the one guy we're going to say is not equal but is above the law just so happens to be the most powerful person as well. That seems like a terrible, terrible, terrible system that could lend itself easily to abuse.
Agreed. So what 46 has done, imagine being a candidate for president and having it confirmed that you said the N-word being the second worst thing to happen to you all day, which again, I did a video about that. I need to edit it here soon, probably in the next 15 or 20 minutes. But yeah, it was also confirmed that Donald Trump, they have him on tape using the N-word. The audio file exists. Apparently the NDA covering the audio file is expiring, so it's entirely possible we'll hear that audio file come out soon. That's obviously not going to be beneficial for Trump. But yeah, second worst piece of news for him all day.
Well, I mean, if running for president ever falls through, he can always join the online debatosphere and debate the use of the N-word.
Yeah, apparently that's an all too common thing. Let's see. Sheldon Whitehouse, Trump is calling this a rigged, disgraceful trial, just like he called it a rigged election. Loving our country means respecting our democratic institutions. From honest courtrooms to free and fair elections, you can't love your country only when you win. But of course, that's the only time when Republican lawmakers and politicians love this country at all.
Oh my gosh, that Waters quote. Oh my God.
Yeah, let's take a look at this.
Jesse and then Harold, and then I think we're out.
It's hard to imagine how the president feels right now as someone who was born in New York City, who then came back and had a big part in creating the New York City skyline. Not many people have such a powerful imprint on the city as Donald Trump. And then page 6, fixture, big part of the 80s and 90s social scene here that defined New York City culture. And then grows that brand into a reality TV star with The Apprentice at the time of reality TV's zenith, and then takes it even higher to the White House and keeps New York City safe, keeps New York City wealthy, and then you get a once-in-a-100-year pandemic, and the man is on the phone with Cuomo sending ships, sending ventilators, doing everything he possibly can to help this city. And what does he get in return? He gets a sick DA with a
crooked judge,
yeah, and a ridiculous Biden Justice Department official who conspire to destroy him because he was successful. It's a shame. It's a damn shame.
Wow. And then you have Dana Perino, who's supposed to be one of the normal ones. You know, yeah, crooked judge. Wow. Wow. She's, by the way, a joke as much as any of them. What a loser. She'd be celebrating if this were a Democrat. She'd be doing backflips, and so would Waters.
I never considered the fact that, like, you know, is he a criminal? I don't know, but he built a tall building, so we should let him off. Not to mention, they need to stop talking about Trump as if he's like God's gift to New York. He put his name in gold on top of a few tall buildings. How much does that contribute to the point where it's like, well, I guess we can just let you get away with criminality, or just let you off the hook? I mean, it's not like a thing where if you contribute enough to charity, or we're not even talking about charity here, if you build a building, you get a get out of jail free card, you can go commit crime. It's just ridiculous. I mean, like, this standard would never be held for anyone else. Oh, we're gonna hold the Biden family to account after all they've lost, and after everything that Biden did for the state of Delaware and the people of the Delmarva area. Like, no, it's ridiculous.
Well, like even this, right? Yeah, no, a great point. I mean, like, there's this idea that because you have your name on a high rise or on a building that, exceeds a certain number of stories, that certain judicial and legal consideration should be granted. It's stupid stuff. And yeah, to your point, Joe Biden has had decades of public service. And if he ever tried to cite that as a reason to either not prosecute him or to exonerate him after prosecution or to go lenient with the sentencing, those same people on the 5 would be laughing and mocking the notion. But because it's their special boy Trump, it's very different. And that's why I say, I think it's so important. I take a very combative approach with the right that if they're hypocrites, I just think all you do is make fun of them. I think you reject the premise, you expose the hypocrisy, and you ruthlessly mock it. I'm not obligated to treat with respect a group of people who think that if it's a Republican, you can't prosecute, you shouldn't prosecute, you should consider the consequences politically and what it would do with respect to division. But that same Republican can call for and attempt to prosecute Democrats with impunity. That's different. I reject the double standard. That's why I take none of what enlightened centrists have to say on this matter. Piers Morgan says all the time, oh, what about the division this is causing? Well, again, unless you were saying that when Trump was campaigning on lock her up in 2016, lock Joe Biden and Obama up in 2020 as the sitting president, and what he's threatened to do in 2024, unless you're consistent in that regard, I have no interest in what you have to say, because it's stupid and unprincipled and purely partisan, and I'm going to make fun of it.
You know what, Josiah? What do you think the Central Park Five are feeling like right now?
They should, honestly, I don't know how many of them are still alive. I don't think they're all five still alive at this point. I know one of them is I think he's like an alderman or something like that in New York. They should, the survivors should absolutely issue a public statement. That would be awesome and hilarious, and it'd be vindication. Because on top of all of that, again, going back to it, it was reported today that Trump got busted using the N-word. So they could comment on both of these things. Like, hey, listen, this guy who said some pretty racist things about us in the past, even though we were exonerated, we want to respond twofold. And it'd be beautiful. I honestly, that's a really good point. And I'm sure they're being reached out to by MSNBC or CNN for comment, and they should respond. Let's see. Oh man. So how are you doing? While I'm still scrolling here and while we're still looking at right-wing cope, how are you? Are you still abroad?
Yeah, I'm still in Ukraine. I've got some more stuff I want to film. I want to finish the documentary I'm working on about drone warfare. I still have some other documentaries I want to release. I've got stuff being edited right now to be released in the near future. And yeah, I'm going to be here for quite a large part of the year. I'm going to come back for any political work I can get involved in, because it's an important election. And, I believe that, there's fights both at home and abroad that are worth fighting right now. But I'm going to be spending a lot of my time over here. As for how I'm doing right now, I got suspended from YouTube again. So times are great. Times are great. Times are good.
Uh-oh. When did that happen?
2 days ago.
I did not know that.
Yep. I'm demonetized 9 months, suspended again. It is what it is. I watched a Brian Tyler Cohen interview with RFK, and they decided that I was doing vaccine misinformation.
Uh-oh. Man, sucks to hear that. What about Twitch? How are you doing on Twitch?
I'm not banned on Twitch yet. Let's see if we can change that.
Gotcha. No, don't say that. Don't say that. No, you need to be functioning as a streamer. Let's see. Oh man. One less Republican voter in Florida. Oh gosh.
Yeah, he can't vote now, can he?
No, yeah, that's why that'll be interesting to find out if it's after sentencing, or if that like prescription, or if that prohibition takes immediate effect, because I don't know.
I don't know either.
Let's see here. Austin, glad to see you're doing so well. Josiah Love from DGG. Appreciate it, friends. Appreciate it.
Do you think Biden should ask Trump if he wants a pardon?
Well, that's the other thing, too. This is a state criminal. He couldn't pardon him.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Biden should make an announcement that, I would have
loved to pardon.
I'd love to, but, my hands are tied here. I'm sorry. Oh, Alvin Bragg. Oh, you scoundrel.
Oh, man. That would be hilarious. I don't know. Well, let's see. You have anything else you want to talk about? If not, I'm going to wrap up here pretty soon.
Nah, you know what? I think I'm going to go do my own stream on the Twitch. So I appreciate you having me on.
Where can people find you, by the way? Because again, I don't know how much overlap there is with our audiences.
If you want to see any of my journalistic content, you can follow me on Dylan Burns TV on my YouTube channel, my main channel. If you want my live stream content, the best way is to go to my website, dylanburns.tv, which is where I stream wherever I'm not banned from at the moment. Currently, I can stream on Twitch, so that's where I'm going to go stream. But I also stream on YouTube on my second channel, Dylan Burns Live, but I might move that to a third channel because it's been demonetized for 9-10 months. So it is what it is. But, you know, if you want to come look at me talk about the war in Ukraine, my experiences here while documenting the war in Ukraine, or if you just want to listen to me shit post all day, you know, you can tune into my show at Dylan Burns TV, Dylan Burns Live.
Dylan Burns is definitely worth following. Great guy, great journalist, and doing some like really not only life-threatening work, but really important work again for Russia's war covering Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. So it's worth talking about. I appreciate it, man. We'll be talking soon. Have a good stream.
Much. You have a good one too. Bye-bye.
Oh, this stuff is crazy. Let's see. Again, we'll be wrapping up here soon. This stuff is crazy. This is so nuts. Let's see here. Getting text message from family members too. So folks, let's see here. What do you think? I'm going to wrap up here soon because I got to record another video. I got to edit the one I did. Let's see. Trump Jr. is coping on Rumble right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Again, I don't think Trump's going to serve any jail time. I don't think that it's entirely possible. It seems to me that this might be overturned on appeal. I don't know. I don't know about any of this. This is just what we have now is just some schadenfreude in the short term. Okay, the justice system is still heavily skewed towards the rich and powerful. Donald Trump is both. None of these things will prevent him from running for becoming president. Dragon Force says, nice singing voice. Thank you. We should do karaoke sometime here on this channel. Give you some Matchbox 20. Megyn Kelly, guilty on all counts. This country is disgraced. Alvin Bragg should be disbarred. They will rue the day they unleashed this lawfare to corrupt a presidential election. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Megyn Kelly, what a joke. Let's see. Reminder that Republicans say felons should be allowed to vote. Now they want one to be president, of course, because they're unprincipled losers. They don't have to be consistent at all. 1/3 of our Supreme Court was appointed by a convicted felon whose crimes got him into the White House. Adam Kinzinger, former Republican congressman, says, watching all these GOP politicians disparage American citizens. Man, this happens all the time that my stuff freaks out. Why does it do this? Let's see here. Told everyone over a year ago they were going to arrest him. Told everyone over a year ago he's going to get convicted. Told everyone he was going to prison. Begged even one Republican AG to arrest a prominent Democrat in an effort to stop this madness. Now we're here. See, again, this is how their brains work. They think that equal under the law means that anytime you prosecute a Republican, you must balance the scales and go find a Democrat to prosecute. Weird stuff. Just going to point out that one prominent Democrat, Bob Menendez, has been prosecuted, but he didn't even need to be prosecuted by a Republican. He's being prosecuted by a Democratic attorney general. We are much more even-handed with this stuff than you guys are. Nonsense. I mean, if Pisco was available, I don't know if he is. Love Pisco. Let's see. Let's see. Pisco is tweeting like a madman. Yeah, I bet he is. I bet he is. I'll refresh the page. see here.
And I just want to say something about the jury here, because there's a writer I really love, Osito Onevu, and he's made this point before. He said, when you take a step back, the only people that have held Donald Trump truly accountable have been ordinary people. They didn't vote for him the first time around. They kicked him out of office the second time around. And in two different juries, random folks, literally off the street, more or less drawn from a machine that's popping out numbers and addresses in a civil trial and in this trial, came together, reasoned with each other as equal citizens, and said, yeah, he did it. The whole time we've been lectured about how, like, you don't understand Trump's appeal, and that it's that he's really the tribune of the vote of the people, and you elites and liberals. No. People, real people, our fellow citizens at every hinge point, important hinge point, have rejected the man, or in this case, found him plainly guilty of the thing that he plainly did.
Why? Why do you think?
I just have a lot of faith in people, and I think that.
Damn it, I was muted. I said, I am kind of, I don't share Chris Hayes's faith in people. I'm a cynic by nature, unfortunately. I mean, the fact that this election is as tight as it is to me kind of an indictment of so much that's wrong with our country. And so I am kind of surprised by the outcome here, not because I think the prosecution didn't make a compelling case, but because I didn't expect it to matter. So Donald Trump is known as Teflon Don, and he sidestepped issues, which has laid low so many other Americans. And again, that may very well be the case. He may win the election, and he may, avoid jail time here too because of a lenient sentence from the judge. But yeah, this is a really, really good day in terms of at least a gesture towards the notion that nobody is above the law. So yeah, good stuff here. Do I think, let's see, I'll wrap up here in a few minutes. Hey, Josiah, do you think this conviction will help Biden regain the high road for Democrats? I don't know. So obviously Trump's legal woes helped rally support for him in certain respects, not all, because he still lost 25%. He was still losing votes to Nikki Haley recently, anywhere from 15 to 25% of the vote, depending on the state. But it certainly helped radicalize and galvanize his base, not all Republicans, but his base of Republicans, which is obviously the driving force of the GOP. The data so far and the polling so far suggests that a conviction would hurt Trump more than help. But I just did a video today about a recent Marist College poll, Marist University, saying that the 67% of respondents said that the outcome of this would not change their vote either way, for or against Trump. And then you had a percentage, I think it was 17%, who said it would negatively if Trump were convicted. But then you had something like 15% say if he were convicted, it would help him. So I don't know. I really don't. I like to think that this will only hurt him in a general election. But let's think about it. If we're being really honest, Donald Trump has so many qualities about him and such a terrible record that any of them should, with a rational, engaged electorate, doom him. He has a terrible record as president. I talked about this before, but Trump, even his economic record, Republicans want to pretend that Trump created the greatest economy in the world from scratch with his own bare hands, when in reality, he inherited a really good economy from President Obama. And most of those macroeconomic trends, for the most part, were just mere continuations of Obama-era trends. So I use the metaphor, Obama inherited a hole in the ground from George W. Bush, the Great Recession, the housing crisis. And from that hole in the ground, he presided over the construction of a 100-story building. Then he passed the baton off to Trump. Trump took over the project and added 5 to 10 more stories. Took it from 100 stories to 110. And then in his fourth year, the whole thing collapses into a hole again. Now, what Trump supporters want to do using this metaphor is give Trump all the credit for the 110 stories, not the 100 that Obama created, but all 110, and not count the part where it all collapsed on Trump's watch. It's a really ridiculously irrational gerrymandering of Trump's credit. But if you look at it holistically, the best part of his economic record came from mere continuations of the Obama economy. He presided over its utter collapse. He deficit spent all 4 years in office. He added $8 trillion to the national debt, which is the biggest in a single 4-year term, after promising that he would wipe the debt out. He wouldn't add any to it, and he would wipe out all that he inherited. He didn't do that. He started a costly trade war with China, which the American consumer and the American farmer felt. He failed to repeal and replace Obamacare. He failed to build the wall. He did give a $2 trillion tax cut for the rich, 80% of the benefits going to the rich. What do you do? He set the stage for the Afghanistan withdrawal. But then there again, they want to give him credit for that, but also none of the blame associated with retrograding U.S. forces and not enforcing the deal with the Taliban. What did he do? Well, the world wasn't on fire. What did Trump do to contribute to the state of the world? Nothing happened with North Korea. They didn't denuclearize. They continued to test ballistic missiles. As a matter of fact, Kim Jong-un was given like high-profile meetings with Putin and Xi Jinping after the meeting with Trump. So that didn't help. I'm just trying to think, what did he do? He has a terrible record. And yet, despite all that, the race is competitive. So I don't know. Let's take a look here. You're like David Packman and Kyle Kalinske just signed my hair declaring Donald Trump is ready to win when he's going to lose. Appreciate that. Absolutely, Trump inherited a good economy like other Republicans and tanked it. Yeah. He arguably helped set the stage for the conflict in Gaza. Sure, moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, not a great idea, I think, in the grand scheme of things. That's how the cycle goes. Republicans raid the pantry and Democrats have to clean up the mess they leave behind. Yeah. And then Republicans complain that the Democrats didn't do it quickly enough or whatever. It's just it is. It's like it's like trying to keep a clean kitchen with a cat, and the cat just keeps knocking shit over. Cats obviously being the Republicans, and we're just scrambling to clean up the messes. And it's a thankless, ugly job. And Republicans are often rewarded for it. It's weird shit. He did help with vaccines. Yes, he presided over Operation Warp Speed, okay, which accelerated vaccine manufacturing. On the other hand, when Biden came along, he basically doubled the rate of vaccinations. He presided over a federal vaccination rollout plan. There was no federal plan from the Trump administration. Biden did. It's so funny to me to use vaccines actually as a contrast point. So when people ask, do I blame Trump for the pandemic? I don't blame him for COVID. He didn't cause COVID. But of course I hold him partly responsible for the pandemic. When you're the chief executive at a time of crisis, you have an obligation to do everything in your power to respond to that crisis responsibly. Now, if in some alternate timeline, Trump had taken the virus seriously from the beginning, communicated honestly with the American people, tried to incentivize people to take best medical practices seriously, social distancing, mask wearing, if he wasn't tweeting and retweeting about firing Fauci, if he elevated Fauci, if he venerated Fauci and Dr. Deborah Birx and the others, if he used the bully pulpit to rally Republican voters, Republican governors, and Republican lawmakers to take the virus seriously, if he did all those things and there were still hundreds of thousands of deaths, I wouldn't blame him, because then I could say he did everything in his power to manage the crisis well. But Trump didn't do any of that. And so, yes, it's fair game to blame him. see. Jimmy Beam, the left literally contradicted every statement he made in the first months of COVID. You mean the statements where he said it's not real and it's going to go away and there are only 2 cases and it'll be over by Easter, all that shit? Yeah, you're right. We did contradict that, but we were right and he was wrong. I don't know. I'm not a prophet. I have no idea. I know he's apparently like eligible up to like 4 years in prison for this. I don't think that'll happen. As a matter of fact, the judge may even stay the sentencing until this is appealed. Trump closed the U.S. virus monitoring station in China just before the outbreak of COVID-19. I don't remember that part, but I do remember that Trump apparently got an update on SARS-CoV-2 in December of 2019, and he didn't take it seriously. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the GOP, it's an authoritarian cult. I just have no faith in the Republican political class. I grew up in rural Kentucky. I was born in northeastern rural Pennsylvania, so most of my family members and friends are conservative, and I love them dearly. But as far as the GOP as a political institution, the party, the political class, the people who run the party, yeah, it's a cult, and I have no interest or faith in it. I think they should lose every election. I think the GOP needs a real timeout. As far as I'm concerned, there's no room in this country for an elected Republican official. I think they should lose every election in every jurisdiction. Obviously, this is not going to happen. I'm just talking about what I think would be right. And they're given just a collective timeout. Like, hey, purge the authoritarian elements of your cult, do an about face, make a public apology to the American people. Like, hey, sorry for that whole Trump stuff. That was our bad. And then join the rest of civilized political representation, in terms of the political class, in terms of being a sitting member of Congress and governors, et cetera, and so forth, while governing in good faith, then we can talk about that. But yeah, the GOP, just not a good faith opposition party, not a loyal opposition party. They're a cult. They hate this country. Republican politicians hate this country because at least half this country are Democrats. They hate this country. Let's see. What are my thoughts on appeal? I'm not an attorney nor a prophet. I don't know. I don't know what basis by which they would have to appeal. I mean, obviously they're going to appeal this. I'm just saying, like, in terms of a successful appeal, I have no idea. I'm a cynic by nature, so I just wouldn't be surprised. So, well, folks, yeah, listen, thanks for joining me for this impromptu situation. I'm also from Kentucky. Louisville's destroyed by Democrats over the past 4 years. Whatever you say, sweetheart. Whatever you say. All I'll tell you is I think Andy Bashir has been a hang on, Pisco. But I'm wrapping up. And my boy Pisco responded. I'm going to let him respond to me first before I make my decision. Probably not. Okay, probably not. Okay. All right. Yeah, Pisco is mobile at the moment, so we can't get him on. It'd be too difficult. Let's see here. Pondering, can you speak real quick on what Durbin should do to address Alito and Thomas? Yeah, so, okay. Dick Durbin's the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He has the gavel, which means he can issue subpoenas. He can make referrals if those subpoenas are violated to the Department of Justice. He can launch investigations. He can hold hearings and press conferences. He should be doing all of those things. He should just be doing all of them. This is an election year. The next president may be able to seat two Supreme Court justices. I'm sure Alito and Thomas will do their best to cling to power if President Biden is reelected. But we all know that they will resign the day after Donald Trump is inaugurated and a Republican Senate is seated. So this is an election year, and this could affect the outcome of not just the presidential election, but the senatorial elections. You guys got to remember, we have like a 1-seat majority in the Senate, and we have a brutal Senate map ahead of us in November. We have to defend John Tester in Montana, Sherrod Brown in Ohio. We're losing Manchin in West Virginia. And yeah, I don't like Manchin. Manchin gets on my nerves, but Manchin was an ally. He voted with Biden like 90% of the time and voted to confirm like virtually every judicial appointee, including Justice Jackson, to the bench. And we're going to lose him. That seat's going to be taken by a Republican. We're losing Kirsten Sinema, but Arizona's purple, and Ruben Gallego is favored, so that's not so much of a loss. It's going to be tough. We need to win all of it. We need the full Monty, people. We need to take back the House. We need to get Biden reelected, and we got to keep the Senate. We have to do that. We need all three. Okay. So I think Durbin should be using this as an opportunity to draw attention to the fact that the Supreme Court is hopelessly corrupt, and that the next president, if it's Trump, will have the opportunity to make it even more corrupt for a longer period of time, because he's going to replace, Thomas and Alito with 40-year-old hyper-conservative people from the Heritage Foundation, not the Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society. And we can't afford that. We haven't had a liberal majority in the Supreme Court in 50 years. And if Trump gets reelected and he gets a Republican Senate, then it's probably going to be another 50. We can't afford it. As a matter of fact, if Trump gets reelected and he gets a Republican Senate, then he would be able to confirm, again, 2 more justices, which would make it a MAGA majority Supreme Court. We already have a 6-3 conservative supermajority, but it would be a MAGA majority court. Country can't survive that. So Durbin should be doing everything in his power to be like ringing a gong, gung, 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 and waking the American people up, saying, hey, listen, one of 3 branches is hopelessly corrupt. We got to rein it in, which obviously, if you've been following this channel, you know that's a pet peeve of mine. This proposition that the United States Supreme Court should be given lifetime appointments, no election, no re-election, no mandatory retirement ages, no binding code of ethics. And they can impose their will on us whenever the hell they want. They can do whatever they want whenever they want, which they can. As long as a case makes its way to the Supreme Court, which is really easy because you can just judge shop, appeal, and then the court decides what to grant certiorari to. So as long as it's eligible to get to them, they can pick and choose what cases to hear and not. And then they can decide however. That was so funny when people are like, well, they're bound by this particular judicial paradigm. Well, no, these guys are highly trained lawyers, and none of them are stupid. If they want a particular outcome, like even think about it. Even the case right now that we're waiting to hear on Trump's immunity, you could easily come up with a scenario, and this is where I wish Pisco were here, because he could go into the legal jargon behind it. But let's say Thomas, Alito, Roberts, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch. You don't even need Coney Barrett. We'll toss her to the libs, make it a 5-4 decision. Let's say all 5 of them go, listen, we don't want to screw with Trump here. We don't want to mess with Trump's, chances. How can we work backwards from this outcome and write it into an opinion? They could do that. All kinds of like legal jargonese and legalese shit they can cite, right? This idea that they can't do it, says who? We are banking that they're good faith enough not to grant Trump immunity, absolute immunity, or gerrymandered immunity, which says the president doesn't have absolute immunity, but on anything that deals with, challenging elections, yeah, they can do whatever they want. What's to stop them from working backwards from that decision? Nothing. So the idea that they can do all that and we can't force change on them, it triggers me. That entire argument. Well, it would just be breaking norms. It's like, hey, the founding fathers, if we really would love the founding fathers, they intended for the judiciary to be the weakest and least active branch. The president and Congress are supposed to be more powerful than the Supreme Court, particularly Congress. And this idea that the court can push around the other two, but the other two can't push it around, hell no. Hell no. That doesn't work for me. Weird stuff. So anyway, that was my spiel. Thanks, Scotty. Thanks, buddy. Well, for Congress, it'd have to be federal statute. No, maybe. Some people might say a constitutional amendment because the Constitution lays out the requirements to be a member of Congress. You probably would have to do, maybe you'd have to do a constitutional amendment, which would be 2/3 of both chambers and 3/4 of the states. I don't know. It's like even this, the Democratic Party just stuck a nail in their coffin. See you at the polls in November. Supreme Court will never take immunity away from a former president. Biden is president now. Like, you guys are so stupid. Like, this is how I know you all know. This is how I know you all know, all you conservatives out there, that Joe Biden is a good man who is not authoritarian. Because there's no way you all would be advocating for this shit if you sincerely thought that it applied to presidents. Because if you to simultaneously say that Joe Biden, the sitting president, is a dictatorial, authoritarian, all the crazy shit that MAGA says about him on one hand, and to say that he should effectively be given a blank check to do whatever he wants with and be above criminal prosecution, including, as Trump says, assassinate political rivals, stage coups, sell nuclear secrets. In order for these things to exist without contradiction, you have to believe that Joe Biden would never do the crazy things that you say he would do. Because otherwise you'd be like, oh no, that's entirely too much power to give to any president, especially when the president is a Democrat like Joe Biden. You guys tell on yourselves every time. Every time. Since when did former presidents have immunity? Not from criminal prosecution? Never. Yeah. Well, this has been fun. I'm glad we did this. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't, obviously. I'm going to try to find the wherewithal to put out some more videos today. I don't know. It's going to be tough. But yeah. All right, folks. Thank you. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And I'm sure we'll be doing this